Welcome back. Now let's get into this market picture and get a sense of where things have gone today. Around 1/3% higher than for the Hang Seng out in Hong Kong. So a much better picture as well for most of the Asian market outside of Japan then, where the Nikkei has dropped off 0.4%. Of course, a new leader in that country, Yoshihide Suga, does take over effectively, essentially then as a prime minister of the nation following the resignation then, of course, of Shinzo Abe, who was standing as the prime minister for around 8 years or so as well in that country. But that mixed picture isn't so mixed when one takes a look at Europe. In fact, it's all green across this board today. More than 1% gain for the FTSE 100 out in London, with the DAX and CAC 40 in Germany and France respectively also gaining more than 1/3% each. In fact, nearly 0.4% to the up for the DAX out in Germany. It's sitting at 13,244 points. Over to the local bourse, we're slightly higher today, still above that 56,000 point mark, 0.2% to the good. Resources leading the gains on that front, 1.5% higher, led by the gold mining shares, which of course have been boosted by Harmony Gold, which has put out its set of earnings. We'll unpack that in just a moment or two, but gold mining shares going up more than 3%, with platinum miners also sort of taking in some of the joy as well, more than 1% gain there. The banking counters though not doing too well today, and that seemingly coming through from the negativity of the local economy as well. So it means that financials have dipped around 0.25%. Industrials, the likes of Naspers and the like as well, dipping today, not necessarily enjoying a good picture, which unfortunately creates that mixed saga. So the JSE only able to slightly gain and slightly move higher. As I said, the big gain is in terms of company news. Harmony Gold sitting right at the top there, gaining 6.6%, 109 Rand and 87 cents a share at this point in time. A good set of numbers coming out there. They were able to reduce their full year loss, which they had in the previous financial year, and now in their 2020 financial year, yes, they still have a loss of 850 million Rand, but compared to the 2.6 billion Rand that they had as a loss in the 2019 fiscal year, it definitely is a much better picture. Of course, they've also added Anglo Gold Ashanti's assets to their business, the likes of the Mponeng mine as well as the tailings facility that also comes with having made that purchase. It does mean that Harmony Gold will certainly become, well, it is certainly entrenching itself as the biggest gold producer as well, not just in the country, but hopefully elsewhere as well. It certainly is the largest here in South Africa. So Harmony Gold going up then more than 6% high as well for Spur Corporation. So some good figures there. Togosan enjoying some light as well, 390 a share, but up 4% this afternoon. In terms of stocks going down, PPC has fallen more than 8% as well there. They're going into a rights issue. We'll unpack that as well in just a moment or two. And it does mean that they've spoken to their investors, and the worry for them is certainly the continuation of the business. Construction has certainly struggled as well on the local front. So where to from here for PPC, which is a big status on that front. So we'll hopefully get them moving higher there. Murray and Roberts as well joining that construction saga, which has gone down 7.5%. We've got Nampak as well sitting down 6.82%. On the commodities front, it's all green thus far. Brent crude going back above $40 a barrel on that front, with platinum as well as gold also headed higher. In terms of the local currency, well, look at that. As we head towards the interest rates decision by the South African Reserve Bank, the local currency has strengthened to 16.44 against the greenback. It's 1.33% higher up. The euro as well has weakened against our local currency, so we've gotten slightly stronger there, 19.56, 21.24 then for a British pound. 0.7% better off is how the rand sits. Roy Mutoni from Absa Asset Management joins us on the line now as we get to talk about this market picture a little bit. Roy, thank you so much for the time. So overall, this market looks towards a better rand picture. As we head towards the MPC's decision on Thursday, do you see another cut in interest rates?
Well, I think the consensus is for about another 25 bps cut in interest rates when they finish the meeting, I think on Wednesday or Thursday. But this rand strength that you're seeing here, it's largely driven by dollar weakness. The dollar index is down to about 92, which is as low as it's been in a very long time. So I think it's still early to be reading too much into the rand strength, but I think it will be positive in the sense that the stronger the rand, lower the inflation, the higher likelihood that interest rates continue to come down.
Yeah. Do you reckon it could be, though, very cosmetic, though, Roy, to just have a rand that strengthens at this point and then lower interest rates? Would it not just be perhaps cosmetic? Have we not done enough already? You know, has the effect even trickled through to the consumer completely at this point with regards to low interest rates?
The reality is, and I think we'll see this in the statement, is that there hasn't been enough time to see a consumer response. Usually it takes 12 to 18 months, maybe even 6 to 12 months to see a consumer response. But we're still in a situation where the lockdown hasn't entirely been taken away. We've lost a whole lot of jobs. There's still an incredible amount of uncertainty. The interest rate cuts haven't been given a chance to actually work. We've helped people who have debt. We've helped people who have interest in, who are exposed to the interest rate cycle. But in truth, it hasn't yet trickled into the consumer.
Yeah. Roy, let's get into some equity news then. Harmony Gold coming out with a set of earnings then, being able to reduce their full year loss then from 2.6 billion to 850 million rand. Plus, they've been able to add Anglo Gold Ashanti's assets to their business. Good news story on this front?
Well, it's a bit of a mixed story. I think they benefited from the higher gold price and the weaker rand, but gave away some of this through their hedging practices. You know, gold miners tend to sometimes hedge the production, which helps them finance it. I think they hedged their production and the gold price went up, so they missed out a little bit on that, but the rand bailed them out. Production was down because of the impact of lockdowns, because they weren't able to mine them, but as a result, capex was also down, so cash generation is up. With regards to Anglo Gold's mine, yes, I suppose it's good news for them. They become the biggest South African-based gold miner. They've got a couple of interesting mines that have come in, but the biggest issue here is the ability to maintain costs, to sustain costs, the capex that they're required to put into these mines over the short to medium term.
All right. What happens, though, in future? I mean, Anglo Gold Ashanti has been a stable force in South Africa for 80 years. Do you think we miss them in a way, or does the market just continue at this point and sort of move on?
Well, the thing is, if you look in the last 10 to 15 years, that resources sector went from being the absolute largest, both in terms of size of companies and numbers of companies, and it's just declined, and it's a reflection of the transformation of the SA economy into more services, financial services, and on the industrial side. So it's a big loss because the company is not shutting down; it's just shifting to other shores. It's a big loss, that's for sure. But I think the JSE will keep going. I mean, hopefully, we'll see smaller companies beginning to grow and taking their place.
Yeah, we'll see how things fare. Very finally, also PPC announcing a rights issue on that front as well, having spoken to their investors. This is a construction story, I suppose, overall, where business is certainly slow. COVID-19 didn't help them.
I think PPC is very much a self-help story. They went through an aggressive acquisition binge over the last 5 or 6 years, changed CEOs a number of times, changed management, and I think all they're trying to do right now is basically clean up from all of that. The fact that they bought businesses in the rest of Africa with very unclear terms, with very unclear financing terms. I think this just is the first bit of the process that is required to clean up the balance sheet and allow them to focus on being a cement company once again.
Yeah, certainly going to allow them to refocus. Certainly something even our own economy certainly needs to do. Roy, appreciate the time though. Thank you so much for joining us this Tuesday afternoon then here on SABC News. Roy Mutoni from Absa Asset Management then joining us to unpack this market picture.